For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Lots to talk about today. Canadians are heading to the polls in just a few days to vote for, well, either a new prime minister or a new political party in power. We don't know. We'll have to see. Keeping in mind that Canadians don't vote for the actual prime minister unless they live in his neighborhood where he's running. You vote for the local candidate, and if that party gets the most votes, they are elected into office. And once again, I tried reaching out to the party leaders to see if I could get interviews with them. I'll tell you more about that coming up in just a little bit. And also, there was some freaky weather where I live last week. How was I affected? Was I affected? I'll have some interesting stories because I was not in Canada and I was not in Los Angeles where people expected me to be, but those were where the two stories were playing out. Those details are coming up in just a bit. And just when you think that you've seen the worst in humanity, you can also see the best in humanity. I've got some stories about how people have been witnessed doing really, really bad things, and by that I mean stealing, and then how just a simple gesture can really make your day and really touch you and make you feel so much better. So there was a lot happening on the show today. It all starts on The Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Last month, when my province was heading into an election to vote for a new premier, or, well, just vote anyway, I had reached out to the party leaders. There were four of them, and I wanted to talk to them as a regular voter. Some of you might remember me talking about this chase here on The Scribble. And really what I said to them was I've never had any political affiliation ever in my life, and I'm not loyal to one party. I would like to know more about the candidates and what their campaign is. And I don't want to watch the debate where they just mudsling and don't answer questions. I want to have a regular 5-minute conversation with them, with the leader, as a voter. Now, keeping in mind that I don't actually vote for the leader, right? I vote for the representative of my neighborhood, and if their party gets the most votes or seats, then they are elected into power. Nevertheless, I thought, if you're wanting to represent my province and me, I want to get involved. Because I think we see it now, especially in the United States, that people are, really getting involved in politics. And there's one thing to just sort of read things on social media or, hear news reports and watch stuff on TV. Well, I want to go right to the source. Now, again, I'm not saying that I'm going to get a more truthful answer just by talking to this person, but I want to know if you would make 5 minutes to talk to me as a voter. Now, of course, there's a catch that we were going to be recording these calls and running them online on the show. But really, there's no difference if I stopped you in a hallway, if I ran into you in public and just started asking you questions. And, would you say to me like, oh, no, I can't talk. Oh, no, don't record me. No, your job is to talk to me, so that's what I'm going to do. So the chase started when I was doing the provincial election. And, I had communication with the media reps of the parties. And sometimes it got a little bit of back and forth. And we ended up only getting one of the party leaders. Now, it turns out that his party didn't have a chance of winning, but at the same time, it said a lot to me that he made time to talk to me, or that they made time for him to talk to me. And so I thought, let's do the same thing here. We've got Justin Trudeau. Everybody knows who he is. He's running again for Prime Minister. He's the party leader of the Liberal Party in Canada. And then there are two other parties, the NDP and the Green Party. Well, back when I was doing a video column for the Winnipeg Free Press, my Winnipeg Cheapskate column, I had the Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, participate in a video segment that we had done. And then I also had the leader of the NDP party at the time. He's no longer there. So when we had reached out to all party leader media representatives on the same day at the same time, basically, we got very quick replies. And again, it was just a basic, who was the current media rep, who would be handling interview requests. I'm not kidding you, replies came within minutes. That's how quickly they were on this. And it was September 16th we reached out to all of them, so now we're over a month. And voting is, just a couple of days away here in October. So we reached out to them, they all replied very quickly, and none of them said no right away. A lot of them were, well, we'll see, the campaign just started, so we've got to da-da-da-da-da. And I was kind of like, all right, well, we'll give it a bit of time and we'll see. So we followed up on, now again, depending on the party, this one is more specifically for the Liberals. We followed up on September 16th, and we got a reply that said, we will let you know if anything is possible. We replied again September 24th, got ignored. September 30th, they replied again, we'll let you know if anything is possible. October 8th, we followed up again. October 13th, we followed up again by asking any word on this. And then October 15th, we followed up again, and then finally got, we said we'll let you know. Now the thing is that we don't book our radio shows on a whim. We don't just stay on standby the whole time. We need a yes or a no, right? That's how we book these segments. Are we going to get Trudeau? Yes or no? If not, you're not going to dangle this along. You're not going to string it along. And so finally we had to lay down the law on October 15th when deadline was approaching, and we just said, fine, we're going to take that as a no and a refusal to participate, and we never did get a reply back. And so that's one instance with the Liberal Party. With the Progressive Conservatives, Andrew Scheer is the party leader's name, who apparently hates gays and outsiders. His rep, we were given different contact information. We reached out to that contact a couple of times and got no response, and then followed up with, any word on this kind of a thing. And that was when that person finally declined the invitation to participate. Again, it's a 5-minute phone call with a voter who's not going to put you on the spot, who's not going to let you mudsling, who just wants to have a casual conversation. Andrew Scheer said no. Green Party's Elizabeth May had looked optimistic for quite a time, and then as crunch time came forward, finally again on October 15th, we were told that they're looking at the schedule as it's the last bit of the campaign. Let me just quote it here, actually. We are currently finalizing the last-minute schedule for Miss May. We will see if it would be possible to set something up, but please understand that her schedule is extremely tight these last days before the election. So again, they're making it seem like we're putting in a last-minute request when it was exactly a month earlier that we had reached out. So I'm not quite sure why they didn't give it any credit, any consideration, and why they ignored it for weeks at a time. And as for the Bloc Québécois, we never did hear anything back through any of our attempts, which would be about 5 or 6 attempts. We never did hear back from the Bloc Québécois. Now, for the People's Party of Canada, that was one party that did try to arrange a time, but the scheduling just did not work for our production schedule, and then never did follow up to make it happen. So kudos to them for at least almost suggesting a time and making it happen, but then went MIA when push came to shove, especially in those final moments of the campaign. So here you are again. When I did this for the Winnipeg civic election, when we were electing a mayor, I was quite happy because basically all of them agreed to do it. 9 candidates agreed to just sit and talk to me. And I thought, hey, that's hopeful. And then when it comes to the other levels of government, it hasn't been that easy. When, again, your job is to talk to people like me, a voter. So that's my update on the federal election. Remember voting day, Canadians, to go and cast your ballot. But again, it's disheartening when I have a situation like that. It actually makes me not want to vote. But then I realize how great Canada is, and it's a privilege to be able to cast a ballot and have a say in democracy. So get out there and do it.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. SpeakFreeWithJB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. So, interesting weather stories. Yeah, see, talking about weather is going to make me feel like my parents, but this is just ridiculous. Okay, so where I'm from, my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, is known for getting a lot of snow in the winter. Let's be honest, much of Canada is known for that. And so I had a trip scheduled to Los Angeles, more specifically West Hollywood, last week, okay? And as the week went on, so this would be like Monday, Tuesday, as the week is going on, we're hearing about there's going to be this winter storm in Winnipeg, and things are just going to be really bad and sloppy. And I'm sitting here going, great, well, I'm off to LA on Wednesday, so I'm going to dodge this. Little did I know how much I actually dodged, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you. So I leave Canada Wednesday late morning, and then I go to Minnesota, and then Minneapolis to Los Angeles, and then I spend a few days in West Hollywood. So I am in California, and I'm having a great Wednesday, right? I got my first afternoon of sunshine, a little bit of sun tanning out by the pool, and then I go to bed, and I wake up on Thursday, and I don't think anything. I'm just, okay, I'm going to carry on my day. I was there for work. We were doing some work stuff. And then as the afternoon comes in, evening settles, I have on the TV news, and I start to see about a storm that's happening in Canada. I knew this was coming, right? It wasn't completely unexpected. And there's my hometown. There's my hometown of Winnipeg on the news. And I see the snow coming down. Again, don't think anything of it. Friday morning I wake up. Now this is where my phone goes nuts. Well, people that have my phone number or my messages go nuts. Wake up on Friday, turn on the phone. I don't sleep with my phone, right? I wrote a book called Put Down Your Damn Phone already, so I don't have the phone with me. And I was in a hotel room that I had an upstairs and a downstairs. I go downstairs to where my phone is, turn it on, and the messages are coming in. So here's what happened. People from Winnipeg, or at least in Canada, who knew that I was going to the Los Angeles area, are seeing on the news that there is a big wildfire that is sweeping across Los Angeles. Remember, I was in West Hollywood. If you're not familiar, West Hollywood is not a neighborhood in Los Angeles. I think that's sort of a misconception, although if you live there, you probably see it differently. But anyway, so they're different cities altogether. And then people who are in the United States who know that I live in Winnipeg are seeing the winter storm on the news and also concerned for me. So I'm very grateful that people had this concern about my safety. Absolutely grateful. But it was kind of funny because you've got these two, I'll call them weather phenomena. I mean, a wildfire isn't really weather, but the way the wind will blow it around, and it does essentially become one. I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm going to go with that story anyway. And so it was kind of funny. These two places that were getting hit by weather, I was not. Normally where I would be in Los Angeles if we're doing entertainment stuff, or I would be in Winnipeg if I was at home. And I was in West Hollywood doing some tourism things. So I dodged the bullet on both of those, events. But the crazy thing was that when I get home, so I was there from Wednesday to Saturday. I got home Saturday night. Now, the storm has already gone through. Like, when I say that I missed it, I literally missed the beginning and the end. So over the course of these 3 days, whatever it was, there was not one snowflake coming down. Like, I was not in the mess of it. If you just Google Winnipeg storm or Manitoba storm, it was a state of emergency in the province, a state of emergency in the city. I mean, this was huge. Trees were coming down, power was out for days for some people, and you'd think that we lived in the boonies. No, this was in areas of the city, a well-developed city, which is about 800,000 people. And so when I got home Saturday night, I'm coming from the airport, going home, it was almost like a ghost town. It was so eerie. You see these trees falling down. Again, some of the streets were still blocked. There was no traffic, nobody around. I just thought, this is so spooky. It was really kind of creepy. It was really strange. And yeah, so trees were coming down. And the reason that this happened was because the leaves haven't fallen off of the trees at this point because the weather was still so nice. And so I guess the weight of the heavy, wet snow on these leaves brought down all these really big tree branches. So when you see these trees outside and you're like, oh, that's a big old tree, that's strong. Not necessarily, because, you get a few pounds of snow, I guess several pounds of snow on this, and it can take down some branches. So it was crazy to see the destruction. And I didn't follow the story too closely, but I don't think that there were any, fatalities, I guess is the better word we like to use in broadcasting. I don't think there was anything serious that happened in that regard, but still a scary situation where people are, literally days, 4 or 5 days without power. Fortunately, the weather isn't, freezing cold. If this was in the middle of winter, I would be much more concerned, but the temperature was hovering around the freezing point, if not a little bit warmer. So, so there is one sort of bright side that people got off a little bit lucky in terms of temperature. But yeah, definitely a weird scenario. And then with Los Angeles, that wildfire that was happening, that I guess made more national news than the Canadian thing for our American friends. I was nowhere near the storm, nowhere near the wildfire. There was a bit of a haze in West Hollywood when I was looking out. I did take a picture and I sent that to a few people, but it wasn't anything that was, completely noticeable because, again, there's quite a distance between certain areas of LAX, anyway, where I was heading the final day. We're going in the opposite direction. So, but again, just two really weird situations that were playing out, and I was lucky enough to miss them both. So, anyway, now I do have another story about my hometown. We're going to take a break. And I'll tell you a bit of a disheartening story about my hometown when we come back on The Scribble.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. So I was talking about the weather phenomenon in Winnipeg, my hometown, the wacky Winnipeg winter warning, and those are all the W words I could think of right at the moment. But there's also a concerning crime spree that's happening in the city, and it's made news, where people are just going into the liquor stores and stealing stuff and just running out. And they've enacted rules now that basically you're guilty the second you walk in. You're not allowed to take any bags. They're watching you, and it's just like, oh my God. I couldn't even take in an empty shopping bag one time, like a canvas shopping bag. I had to leave that at the front. And they have these security guards right at the door who clearly are doing nothing. Now, again, I'm not setting the scene for you and saying it's easy to steal from liquor stores in Winnipeg, but it's easy to steal from liquor stores in Winnipeg. I'm not breaking any news here. It's widely known if you just look up the story. So here's what happened. I was at a convenience store the other day, and there's a liquor store time, but you'll just have to wait for that. So I was at a convenience store getting some snacks for a road trip, okay? And I'm standing there waiting in line, and I'm making small talk with the cashier, and for some reason she just wasn't into it. Not like I was giving my life story, but she just didn't really care to listen to what I was talking about. I could see her looking at this guy down the aisle, and he's got a bunch of bags of chips in his arms, and I was just kind of like, all right, well, let's just make this quick. And out of nowhere she's like, Are you gonna put that stuff back? And at first I thought she was talking to me, but she was talking to the guy who was behind me, technically, in the aisle. And she basically says to me and this woman who's standing behind me in line, yeah, watch, he's gonna steal all that stuff in 2 seconds. And we thought that she was joking. I'm like, really? This guy's just gonna be that blatant? Is he gonna go bolting out of the store? Like, what's gonna happen? And sure enough, he comes up the aisle, and I swear to you, when I say literally arms full, I know what the word literally means. It's literally arms full. So we're talking those big bags of chips, I would say at least 6 or 7 of them, almost like he's struggling to carry them. And then he stops at the end of the aisle, grabs some more of those energy drink things, because you got to have something to wash down your stolen chips, and kind of, backs into the door to push it open, and then just walks right out. And as we're standing there, there's a woman, like I said, behind me, and she says, "Oh, man, don't do that," as that's going to stop him, right? And sure enough, and we're not even saying that he didn't even run out the door. He didn't do anything to cover his face. He just was like, "I'm going to just take this. Thanks very much. Goodbye." And I was stunned because I've never seen something like that before. I've been to a lot of stores. I've been around. I've been around quite a bit. I've never seen somebody just so blatantly. You maybe see the odd time, and now that I think about it, I've seen it like at the dollar store where you've got somebody who, is kind of where you can't see them and is putting a couple things in their bag, some dollar stuff. This is just walk right out. I'm not saying one is better than the other, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning stealing, but I couldn't believe it. So that's how just casual, blasé, how relaxed these people are just to go in and steal something. And I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous. I mean, you don't expect to see that. And so the woman said, like, "Oh, well, we don't even call the police anymore because, they're not going to come. What are they going to do? We've got them on video, whatever." And then she said, like, "It's not worth it. We're not allowed to touch them. We can't, confront them. We can't do anything. And it's also just not worth the safety. It's not worth my safety. Why would I? They're not stealing my things. It's the store. The prices are going to go up. People realize that, and whatever. I mean, these kids are going to come back in a day or two or whenever their snacks are gone, and they're going to take more." And I'm laughing about it because to me that's just so ridiculous. I just find that to be so strange. So then a couple days later, I'm talking to my mom, and I was just telling the story. I was like, "Oh, I went to the store, and I basically just saw this guy just load up his arms and walk right out." And she said, "It's funny that you mentioned that because Dad and I were at the liquor store the other day. And I was in line, and there was sort of like a commotion, and I didn't really know what was going on. And the employee at the counter says, 'Oh, yeah, we were just robbed.'" Now, when you use the term robbed, I would think that there's like a gun, like it's a stick-up, like a hold-up. But robbed, in that case, just meant stolen. Stuff was taken. And so, my mom didn't actually see them, but then my dad, who was in the car in the parking lot, said, "Yeah, these kids just came like bolting out of there with these bottles of booze and went running." So at least in the liquor store, they felt it needed to be a quick getaway. But again, there's a store that's got this security guard at the front, and you're just sort of like, okay, well then what is the point? Like, are they doing their jobs then? Because I want that job. If I can just sort of stand there and not have to intervene and not have to stop people, I'll take that job. Why not? I'd probably get shanked. But anyway, so to me, I feel that society is screwed. If this is the way people treat going into a store, and it's just like, all right, I'll just stroll right through, just casually, I'm just going to take this and walk out. Now, here's the deal. When we were younger, my brother got busted stealing from a convenience store. Can I say 7-Eleven? What the hell? And they called my mom because I guess they stopped him or whatever. I don't know if they like grabbed him or what, maybe because you were able to back in the day. I don't know. Either way, I just know that the store called. The store was down the street. And they called my mom, and they said, and I'm going to name my brother, Trevor. Trevor was caught stealing. We need you to come and get him. So my mom, and this is the funniest thing because she told me this story, she waited. She took her sweet married time to go and get Trevor because she knew that Trevor was going to be shitting his pants the whole time at the store because as soon as Mom walked in there, you just knew. You just knew. And so my mom's like, "Yeah, no, I made him wait. I was still making dinner and whatever." And he had to stand there. And then I asked Trevor about it later because we're grown-ups now, but I asked him about it. He's like, "Yeah, I remember that being the longest wait." Because in my head, I can see Mom, storming down the sidewalk. And the fact that it was taking longer and longer and longer, that put more fear in him and more panic. And so there you go. So that's back in the day. Now, again, we're going back, I would say, 30 years, if not more. But that was a time when you respected your parents. Trevor knew that he did wrong and pissed off Mom. He knew that. And he knew, not that we were beaten at home. I'm not saying that, he got what do they call it, a licking? No, he wouldn't have been spanked because he was probably too old for that. He was probably at least 10 years old or so, if not. So spanking wasn't really a thing for kids that age, but you just knew, you were terrified. You were crapping your pants because you pissed off mom. You did something wrong, you got busted, and you were going to hear about it. And so I don't want to say that we were fearful of our parents, because we were fearful of disappointing them. We were fearful of pissing them off. We were fearful of embarrassing them. And for some reason that went a long way, and we turned out to be good kids. We did, and I'm not making a joke. I'm not, being cocky about it, but we've never been in trouble with the law. We've never had any situations like that. My brothers each married, have kids. I own a company. I've got a successful business. And, we respected our parents. We feared them when we needed to, and we're okay. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's time to... I'm not saying bring back spanking, but just something at home needs to be changed. What are your thoughts? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. So I give you those two stories about society and despair and how we're headed for trouble and people just suck. Well, there was a good story that came out of my life a few days ago. So when I was traveling, I'm sort of jumping around. When I was traveling the other day, I was on the airplane, and there was no room for my carry-on bag to go above my seat. Sometimes you might have to put it like a row ahead or a row behind. Well, on this particular plane, I had to put it about 10 rows back. And so I already know, because I travel enough, I know that if you put it forward, that is so much easier, because when you land and you get all those idiots that stand up right away as soon as the plane stops and the seatbelt sign comes off? They stand up, they clog the aisle, you've got all these bags. If you ever did have to evacuate and go through the back in that moment, it would be a stampede, right? Because everybody is there right away, so you just can't. So I was just like, oh crap. So I'm not one of those people who stands up. So I'm just waiting. My row comes to exit. The people go. I'm still sitting there. A couple people in the rows behind go, and I'm sitting there just waiting and waiting. And all of a sudden, I hear this woman go, "Oh, sir." And so I just turned around. And I'm like, no, I'm waiting. My bag is all the way back there. And she said, "No, here, I got it for you." In that moment, I'm not kidding you, I was so touched. And what my point is that it was just a simple gesture. It was something so kind. I don't know how she remembered me or that she knew it was... Whatever. Bottom line is she brought my bag for me, so I didn't have to wait, go all the way back. Now, the pessimist in me is sitting there going, oh, okay, she just didn't want to have me backtrack and wait longer for them to deboard. Deplane? Whatever the term is. But I didn't want to soil the moment. And so I accepted that. And I said to her, thank you so much on the plane. And then as we got off and we were going through the jetway or whatever that thing is called, I said to her again, I'm like, thank you so much. That was so nice of you. And then, I'm not kidding you, because why would I make this up to make myself, embarrass myself? I went to the bathroom in the airport terminal, and I started crying in the bathroom stall. It was a long trip, and I was exhausted. But again, to me, that was just so touching. It was just something so simple, like a simple gesture like that. It just made me feel so nice. And she was nice. It made me feel so good. Sorry, she was so nice. And it sort of gave me a renewed sense of, hey, there's not all this bad stuff in the world. There are some people who will do kind things just because. So thank you to that woman. Not that she's listening to this, not that I'll ever see her again, but and I guess maybe my moral of that story is just do something nice once in a while. Honestly, I think I told you this story when I was in the summer walking my dogs at like 5, 6 in the morning. I was up so early because the sun was out, the birds were chirping. I hate those chirpy birds in the morning, but I was out walking on like a Sunday or whatever it was, and the gardening crew was all outside, right? The people who were doing their lawns and their flowers and everything. And I remember one morning just saying to people, I'm like, those are nice flowers. Oh, I like those flowers. And I just kept walking. Normally I have my headphones on. We're at a decent clip. The dogs don't stop when we walk. We just go. And I remember coming home and thinking, I feel really good. That was nice to just sort of compliment people and say nice things to them. And it was, I don't know, it just made me feel good. So, this is the thing, is that you can go through, life miserable, and I often do. No, I don't entirely, but it's just the little simple things. Compliment somebody, just something simple. And again, I'm not one of those people who, what was that book, The Secret? I'm not telling you to form a cult here or join any sort of group, but it really can make a difference to your mood. All right, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you that. All right. Oh, and on that note, we're out of time. I was going to throw to a commercial, but that's it. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Live at jbonair.com is my email address. Live at jbonair.com. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat